was a typical dinner, or at least it was supposed to be. The conversation as usual flowed around my sister Vanessa's latest projects and my mom's ever-present smiles, always a little too perfect. But I wasn't part of that scene. I was the quiet one, the one who made sure the bills were paid, the one who kept the house standing, yet never got a single nod of acknowledgement. As the wine poured and my sister laughed, I kept my head down, pretending the weight wasn't crushing me. I had been silently carrying the family and they didn't even notice. But then I couldn't keep it in anymore. The words slid out unnoticed at first, like a quiet steel beam locking into place. Maybe Vanessa's vision can pay your $4,800 rent this month. It wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic, but in that silence, everything shifted. The table froze. The air thickened, and for the first time, my role was laid bare. No one spoke. No one even moved. The weight of the truth hung there, but I was already too far gone to take it back. I didn't wait for them to respond. I couldn't. The moment I spoke those words, something inside me cracked. My feet were already moving before I had fully processed what I had said. I stood up, pushing my chair back with a sharp scrape against the hardwood floor like a warning shot that no one seemed to hear. I didn't care. I walked out without a second glance, my hands gripping my purse tighter than I should have. I could feel their eyes on my back, but I couldn't bring myself to turn around. The luxury condo with its polished floors and high ceilings felt suffocating now. The walls, which had been a testament to their dreams, suddenly felt like they were closing in on me. But I didn't look back, not even once. The stairs were colder than I expected. My heels clicked against the concrete, echoing in the empty stairwell like gunshots. Each step, each echo felt like a punctuation mark in a story I hadn't realized I was writing. For so long, I had been a silent contributor to this facade they had built. Every month, $4,800 slipped from my account into theirs, and in return, I got nothing but their approval. Never the credit, never the recognition. Just the steady weight of expectation. But in that moment, I was stepping away from all of it. The cold, the emptiness of the stairwell felt like a breath of fresh air. A strange clarity came over me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, whether I had known it or not. I pushed open the heavy doors to the lobby. The cold Chicago air hit me like a slap, but it was exactly what I needed. The city's wind from Lake Michigan felt like it was cutting right through me, freezing the part of me that wanted to turn around, apologize, and fix everything. I had been that person for too long, the one who always fixed things, who carried everyone else's weight, who made sure everything ran smoothly. It was exhausting. But the cold didn't allow me to linger in that old role. It felt like a rebirth, or maybe just a long-awaited exhale. I wasn't going to apologize tonight. I wasn't going to fix it. Not this time. I stood on the corner of Michigan Avenue, looking at the blur of people rushing past me, heads down against the wind. But I felt strangely still. In the midst of all that movement, I felt anchored. For the first time in years, I was no longer holding up their illusion. I was standing on my own breathing in the city that had once felt so distant. I had been the one who carried them their bills, their dreams, their stability. I was the column, the support that they never noticed until it was too late. But now the column had cracked. I had cracked. And it wasn't a breakdown. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was freedom. The truth settled in my chest like a weight being lifted for the first time in ages. The family I had always thought I needed to save, well, they weren't going to collapse without me. they would find their way, and I would find mine. I wasn't going to keep paying for their illusions anymore. Not tonight. I was done. I pulled my phone from my bag, needing a moment to ground myself in something real. The glow of the screen illuminated my face as I unlocked it with the swipe of a finger. My hands moved almost automatically as I opened the banking app, not really thinking, just doing. I had seen that balance 100 times before, but tonight it was different. The blue icon pulsed for a moment, and the numbers came into view as steady and reliable as they had always been. The number was healthy, too healthy in fact. The kind of stability I had built for myself without ever truly letting myself feel the weight of it. I scrolled down my finger, moving down the list of transactions, and then I saw it. $4,800, scheduled for the first of every month. A number I had never questioned, a figure that had become as much a part of my routine as breathing. It was rent, but not my rent. It was their rent, my family's rent for that condo they lived in, while I lived in a cramped, quiet studio. I stared at the number, $4,800. It had been coming out of my account without fail for 4 years, every month, without a single thank you, without a single acknowledgement of the weight I had been carrying. It wasn't just money, it was everything. It was my time, my energy, my freedom, my future. The amount didn't just represent a place to live. It had come to symbolize everything I had been doing for them, keeping the family in a comfortable place, keeping them in the illusion of stability. But it wasn't just the rent. That money was the price of something deeper, something I hadn't let myself fully realize until now. I had been paying to be the person they could rely on, the person who always kept the machine running. I had been feeding the dream of the family we were supposed to be, all while starving the one I had put on hold for them. I scrolled further down to the recurring transfers list, the list that never seemed to end. Each month, $4,800 went out, but nothing ever came back. No recognition, no appreciation, no reciprocation, just the same weight, month after month, slowly draining me, keeping me bound to a version of family that wasn't real. I had kept this up for so long, I had almost convinced myself it was normal, that it was my responsibility, that it was part of being a daughter. But standing there in the cold silence of my own thoughts, I saw the truth clearly for the first time. I had been paying for their lives, for their happiness, for the illusion they had built. And in doing so, I had been killing the life I wanted for myself. The firm I had dreamed of starting since I was 22, the freedom to make my own decisions, the power to live life on my terms. It was all gone, drained into a hole in the sky I couldn't even see. And the worst part was I had allowed it. I felt a cold, sharp clarity settle over me. This wasn't just about money. It was about control. It was about breaking free from the illusion. I wasn't just deleting a payment. I was breaking the chain. I wasn't just removing $4,800 from my account. I was removing the hold they had on me. I tapped the edit button on the screen, my finger hovering over the option to change the amount. But I didn't want to change it. I wanted to delete it, erase it, end the cycle. My breath caught in my throat as I confirmed the action. The app asked me if I was sure, like it was giving me one last chance to back out, but there was no hesitation. I had never been more sure of anything in my life. I hit yes, and just like that, the line item vanished. The payment was gone. But so was my old life. In that moment, I didn't feel fear or regret. I didn't feel sadness. I felt lighter. The weight of the last 4 years lifted from my chest, and I could finally breathe again. I wasn't tied to them anymore. I wasn't their safety net, their pillar, their invisible brick. I had paid my dues. I had carried the load. And now it was time for me to carry something else, something I had never allowed myself to carry before my own future. I stared at the empty space on my phone screen for a long time, as if the absence of that number meant everything had just shifted. And maybe it had. The phone in my hand didn't feel like a device anymore. It felt like a tool of liberation, a symbol of control. I wasn't just in charge of my bank account now. I was in charge of my life. And for the first time in years, I knew exactly where I was headed. The next few hours were a blur of noise and confusion. My phone started vibrating almost immediately, the notifications stacking up like a collapsing tower. I sat at my desk, trying to steady myself, watching the screen light up with each new message. It was like the world had suddenly shifted, and now they were all scrambling to make sense of it. Vanessa's first message came through loud and clear. "You are so toxic, Caitlyn," she wrote. "Seriously, you couldn't stand that Dad was proud of me for 5 seconds. You had to make it about money. You ruined the whole vibe. You're just jealous because you don't know how to exist in a room without sucking the air out of it." I felt nothing. No anger. No hurt. I just felt detached. It was like reading a script, watching someone else's emotions spill out onto the screen. I didn't even respond right away. I just let her words sit there bouncing in my mind, trying to make sense of them. Jealous? Of what? Of a lifestyle I had paid for? Of the image of success they had built at my expense? It wasn't jealousy. It was exhaustion. It was clarity. But they couldn't see it, not in a million years. And that was what stung the most. Then the texts from my mother started flooding in, each one more frantic than the last, each one trying to piece together what had happened, as if this was just some mistake that could be fixed. The rent check bounced, Caitlyn. The landlord called. "This is embarrassing. Fix it immediately." The words were all jumbled, full of typos, like she was typing too fast, too frantically. The panic was palpable, but it wasn't because of what I had done. It was because their perfect little world had started to unravel, and they couldn't figure out why. I stared at her messages, reading them over and over again. She still couldn't understand, even after everything I had done for them. She still couldn't comprehend that I was done. Done paying the price for their image. Done carrying the weight of their expectations. Done pretending that everything was okay when it was anything but. She called it a banking error, as if I had just forgotten to make the payment. It was maddening, but it also made everything so painfully clear. This wasn't about a mistake. It wasn't about me failing them. This was about something deeper. I sat back in my chair and let the truth wash over me cold and hard. They weren't blind. They weren't confused. They just couldn't face the reality of what I had done. They needed me to be the villain in this story so they could keep pretending that Vanessa was the golden child, the one who was going to lift them up. They needed to believe that I was the one who had lost it, that I was the one who had broken the family. It wasn't a mistake. It was a survival mechanism. In their world, I was the foundation, the unseen support that held everything together. Without me, their whole narrative would collapse. Vanessa's messages kept coming, each one more desperate than the last. "You've ruined everything, Caitlyn. Everything I've worked for is gone because of you." The accusation stung, but I didn't flinch. She didn't know what she was talking about. She didn't understand the price of her vision, the cost of the illusion she had been living in. And my mother, she was no better. She couldn't even wrap her mind around the fact that I had stopped paying. In her eyes, I was the problem. I was the one who had broken the family. And in their minds, that was unforgivable. I put the phone down finally and leaned back in my chair, trying to quiet the chaos in my head. It was strange. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't upset. I was just resigned. They were never going to understand, and they weren't supposed to. That was the point. I wasn't doing this for them. I wasn't making this change for their approval. I was doing it for me. I realized then that my family's cruelty, my mother's denial, my sister's accusations wasn't about me at all. It was about them. It was about their need to maintain the illusion that they were in control, that everything was fine, that they were living the dream. And they couldn't do that if they acknowledged the truth. If they accepted that I had been carrying them for years, it would mean admitting that their entire narrative was a lie. They couldn't afford that kind of truth. So they needed to make me the villain. But I wasn't the villain. I was the one who had saved them for years. I was the one who had quietly made sure everything stayed afloat while they chased their dreams. And now I was finally letting go. They didn't have to understand. They didn't have to forgive me. This wasn't for them. It was for me. I sat at my desk, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The weight of what I was about to do hung in the air, but it wasn't a heavy weight anymore. It felt right. I wasn't just typing a letter. I was closing a door. I opened the email app and found the contact for the property management firm, the one I had been secretly paying for years. The one who had never once asked why I was always the one signing the checks. I took a deep breath and started typing the subject line. Notice of lease termination for Unit 40B. I didn't need to think about the words. They flowed easily, almost mechanically. I, Caitlyn, the sole leaseholder, was giving the required 60-day notice to vacate. The words were cold, impersonal. And that's exactly how I needed them to be. I wasn't writing to my parents. I wasn't writing to my sister. I wasn't explaining myself. I was stating the facts. The facts were that I was done. No more payments, no more support, no more pretending that everything was okay. When I hit send, the phone felt lighter in my hand. The email was sent. The decision was made. The past 4 years of silently supporting my family, of carrying them while they played their roles, were over. And for the first time, I felt free. I wasn't just letting go of a condo. I was letting go of a life that had never been mine. I was stepping out from under the shadow of their expectations, and I was stepping into the light of my own future. I saved the email. I didn't close it. I wanted to remember what it felt like to take control. This was my moment, my new beginning. I wasn't the person who had to carry the weight anymore. I wasn't the silent provider. I wasn't the one who had to keep everything together. I was the one who got to decide what came next. And what came next was mine to build, from the ground up. Something true, something real, something I could finally call my own. Caitlyn's story is one of breaking free, of reclaiming the power to live life on her own terms. If you've ever felt like you've been carrying a weight that wasn't yours to bear, maybe her journey resonates with you. Sometimes the hardest part is letting go of the things that hold us back, even when they're wrapped in the familiar. So take a moment and reflect. What's holding you back from building something true, something that's yours? And if Caitlyn's story spoke to you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Next week, we'll dive into the next chapter of her journey as she rebuilds after the demolition of her past. Stay tuned, it's gonna be something real.